Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to the Fumble. We are discussing, we're after the dance because we are discussing, after the dance, we are discussing The Last Dance, the ESPN documentary about Michael Jordan. Super excited. We got episodes 3 and 4 tonight. For those of you who didn't get the spoilers, I'm glad that you are staying with us and following the pace.
Yes.
3 and 4 tonight. But before we get in all that, make sure you follow me on all social media at JRayTheFanatic.
And it's your boy Chris. Find me everywhere at CK2K.
CK2K. All right. Just tell me your overall thoughts on these 2 episodes.
I loved it. I loved it for 2 things and 2 things only. We got a lot of Dennis Rodman, and we got to learn more about Mr. Woosah, Phil Jackson. So I thought it was great. There was 2 good episodes.
Yeah, I loved it. I, was excited about this episode because I definitely had such a love-hate relationship with Dennis Rodman. I always wanted him to succeed and seeing him kind of go off the rails. So let's just get into it because episode 3 focused a lot on Dennis Rodman. Yeah. And with him being such a polarizing player, I was kind of disappointed, though, that we didn't learn a little bit more about his childhood. We did learn that, he had a rough kind of time. As we expected, he lived in the projects. His mother kicked him out when he was 18 because he wasn't behaving well, but he didn't get into what that meant. He just said that he was kicked out and was basically homeless for 2 years before he just started going to the gym. And then somebody invited him to college. So we realized he went to college. We knew he went to college, but I think I'm like Chris. I was like, oh yeah, I guess he kind of did.
Right, exactly.
I don't remember where he went or anything like that. But he was drafted by the Pistons, and then out the gate they said he was different. No one said, exactly how he was different. Isiah Thomas did say that he was very innocent and naive. And those 2 words together, when you describe Dennis Rodman, because I think all of us know him from the tail end of his career. Right. But to know that that's how he was described coming into the league.
Weird.
Crazy to me, right?
Yeah.
But Chuck Daly said, and he was the coach of the Pistons at the time, said he loved him and said that he kind of had to tell other people, just leave him alone. You don't put a saddle on a Mustang. That's going to be my new
I love that line. I love that line so much. I was like, yeah, that's such an old school. I loved it. I loved it.
I was like, I love it. I'm going to definitely have to rock with that. But the crazy thing is, so we all know about the Bad Boy Pistons. If you don't, go head over to the Fumble because I actually did a video on that.
You sure did.
We know about the Bad Boy Pistons. I mean, I knew that they were very physical, and I have seen highlights, but some of them, Dennis Rodman said they were more like hockey. They just kind of let them fight. No flagrants, no technical.
People came to see them fight. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. That is crazy.
But again, the crazy thing for me was how dope the Pistons were, especially with that Bad Boy era. And then they end up winning those 2 championships. And then when he should be at the pinnacle of his happiness, he's sitting somewhere in his vehicle with a gun, probably to commit suicide. They didn't get into it, but probably to commit suicide. And he said he was lucky. And this is why I thought it was to commit suicide, because he said he was blessed to have fallen asleep. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
No, 100%. It was one of those things where you could see they're tiptoeing that line. It's like, was that what he said? Because nothing was said. No one was saying that was the thought. But with, like you said, that line he said, he was blessed to fall asleep. It was like, yeah, that was probably the direction he was going.
And this is not shade. It's going to sound like shade, but it's not shade, okay? But for me to know that he was at that low point mentally where he literally thought about taking his own life, then he ends up going to the Spurs, and then he starts dating Madonna. I just don't see Madonna as the person you should date when you're having mental health issues.
When you're going through a situation. Exactly.
I don't see that.
But she seemed to help. She seemed to be a positive in his life because she told him, live your life, be you. And that's when the dyed hair, and then he started being Dennis Rodman. But I agree, like, that's not the first thought. Madonna.
No. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm suffering, let me call Madonna. No, that's just not. No, that maybe Madonna now that she has kids and she's older, but not Madonna then. Not the material girl. No, absolutely not.
Not nude catalog Madonna. No. No.
But we do have some tweets about that. I think this Twitter user has it right when he said, the modern internet would not know how to handle prime Dennis Rodman. He would break it. He would, because he would be all we are talking about. As much as we talk about KD right now, it's mild in comparison to how we were talking about Dennis Rodman. It's crazy.
Dennis Rodman is next level. Next level.
Yes. And then Jeff J. Say posted this tweet that says, Rodman would be a megastar in this era between his fashion, personality, and elite game. The hashtag The Last Dance. And then he did a little goat with the number 23 on it, which was red, but I'm going to steal it and make it purple because I liked it.
Oh, my goodness. That's just the hashtag, Jackie. Okay, you can't take that, okay?
I can. And I will. We also learned about Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson is very grounded. He brought in Buddhism, and he has a strong connection to the Native American culture, which apparently was how he and Dennis Rodman bonded, because Dennis Rodman was very into a Native American culture. Again, not what I expected to hear
at all. That one was new to me. If that's known information, I had no idea. That was interesting.
Yeah. But so we learned a lot of things. He said that Phil Jackson said his first meeting with Dennis Rodman was terrible, which I could see that.
Yeah, that saw it coming.
Yeah, and I love how, he and Michael Jordan just kind of had this connection where Dennis got kicked out of a game, but it wasn't like he had to go apologize. MJ knew that he came to his room and asked for a cigar was his way of apologizing. I love that.
Yep.
Not everybody is, everybody has their thing. I loved it. So here's the other thing that I found really beautiful and kind of sad at the same time is we kind of learned, and again, they tiptoed around a lot of stuff with regards to Dennis Rodman, but we kind of learned that he needed to be needed. And so that's why everything was kind of great when Scottie Pippen was out. But then when Scottie came back in, he no longer felt that Jordan needed him. And he even said it. He was like, the three amigos was back to, you know what I mean? But he didn't feel like he was one of the amigos. He felt like he was an outsider. I really think when he said the three amigos was back together, I feel like he meant Phil Jackson, Scottie Pippen, and Michael Jordan. I don't think he really meant that he was like one of those amigos.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could be wrong. But I thought it was sad, that he just really just felt like he was on the outside. But again, I felt like if they'd have given us more background on his childhood, we would understand why he always felt like the outsider.
The back and forth,
Yeah. So episode 3 ends with Dennis Rodman saying, hey, I need a break. I need a vacation. Who asked for a vacation? This is not the vacation. You have a built-in vacation with your job. I don't even understand it. But they didn't give it to him. Instead, they said, okay, we'll give you 48 hours. Can we give you 48 hours? He goes, yes, I'll take it. And then off he goes to Vegas. And I am so glad that we don't have to wait another week, because if I would have had to wait another week to find out what happened in Vegas, I'd have lost it.
The best part of that was Michael Jordan telling Phil, like, you let that man go. He ain't coming back. That whole back and forth was so funny to me.
Right. But like, he just needs a break.
So can we safely say that Dennis Rodman invented load management? I mean, I feel like that's the ultimate load management, right?
Yes, I agree. I concur.
Dennis Rodman doing it before was cool. Right after that led right into episode 4, which is what I'm going to talk about right now, because at the very tippity top, they showed the amount of hours that he was in Vegas. And as Michael said, he exceeded the 48 hours to the point where MJ had to fly himself over to Vegas and pull a hangover and go and find Dennis Rodman in Vegas. I thought it was pretty funny when Carmen Electra was talking about when she heard the knocks and saw that it was Michael Jordan. She had to hide. I thought that it's just so funny and so Dennis Rodman.
Because she's an entertainer at this time. You know what I mean? And she's trying to make it. She's one of Prince's proteges, which again, shouts out to the soundtrack, because they played All Hail the King is Back from Prince for that.
Fire. Dope.
Yeah,
so
but
good,
the last thing I would have wanted my name to be attached to is Michael Jordan found me in bed, holding Dennis Rodman.
When you're starting your career. Yes.
No, I'm hiding. I am hiding.
Right. I just thought it was funny. I love when they're admitting these things now, which is actually from foreshadowing, because Isiah Thomas admit some things, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Right after that, then Dennis Rodman gets himself right back to Chicago, jumps right into practice, where Phil Jackson tells the squad that, it's going to take some time. So we're going to work Dennis Rodman right back into the system, and not realizing that meant that the rest of the Bulls were going to have to work into the system with Dennis Rodman. And MJ wasn't a fan with that. But basically, the drill was you're running around the gym, and the minute that the whistle is blown, whoever was in last place has to then run ahead of the pack, and the pack has to then go pass him out. So MJ said that they were going to go really slow so that when Dennis Rodman, who he thought would have been out of shape, would have had a little bit of a lead, so they could have worked a little bit to get in front of him. And but nah, Dennis Rodman's built different, because when he went out there, MJ said it took about 4 laps until they finally caught up to Dennis Rodman. And that's crazy. And I think that's the coolest thing about this load management that Dennis Rodman had to go through. And I want to hear what you had to say about it, because for any other player in today's game to go on a 48 plus hour bender in Vegas and then to come back full speed, we're having players complain right now about this quarantine and going to the NBA.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Do you think any player would be able to do that right now?
I mean, because when we know, again, Carmen Electra and who she was at that time in her life, we know that they were doing some illicit partying. And I right now, like, if I go out and if I drink all night tonight, it's going to be rough in the morning. I can't even imagine doing physical activities. But that just lets you know, in my opinion, I'm not throwing shade again. It lets you know 2 things, though. That number one, he was just like MJ said, like when he was on, period. And number 2, he wasn't new to this. He been doing this kind of party and go to work thing for a minute.
So then you think Phil Jackson knew that? Because Phil Jackson, to present that to MJ as if it was not a big deal, it's like, what do you think? Dennis should go on a vacation. What do you think about this? Like, you think Phil knew that?
I think he knew, but I think that he kind of just felt like, oh, Dennis is going to be kind of jacked up when he gets back, but he's coming back. But Michael was like, well, no.
He's like, no, he's not.
Like 2 weeks. What are you talking about?
But this is what I want to talk about. Okay, we were talking about confessions, and I feel like it was skimmed over. But Isiah Thomas, to this day, has never said a positive thing about Michael Jordan. In interviews, he's all over NBA TV. He could never say a positive thing about Michael Jordan. But when he said that Michael Jordan played great and there was no stopping him in that series, I sat back and said, huh?
What? Wait,
Isiah Thomas said? Oh, hello? Like, what's this?
I've heard him say that a couple of times now that this documentary is out. But I will say that before this documentary, I never heard it. He would always say like, oh yeah. And even I heard him do an interview with CBS, I think sometime earlier this week, where he said that he thought that Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player in his generation. But there's always a but, though.
There's always the but, man.
If LeBron James and KD were in the league at that time, then we wouldn't even be talking about Michael Jordan. Which is a fair statement, but it still sounds like haterade, right?
It just sounds like haterade when it's coming from a peer.
If somebody else would say it, yes. Like
right. But knowing it's Isiah Thomas, and even MJ pointed that out, because then the famous Pistons walk off before the buzzer even rang after they got swept, he tried to backtrack a little bit, talking about back in those days they didn't shake hands because that just wasn't the norm, and blah 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 blah. And the minute the producer said, yo, we got this clip from Isiah Thomas who said this, he looked him right in the eyes and said, man, I ain't trying to hear that bullshit. Like, I know what he's gonna say. He's had all this time to sit on it. He's gonna try to backtrack, but the point of the matter is nothing can change my mind that he is an ass. Said something along those lines, and he was right.
Wrong because no, MJ's right, but Isaiah's wrong, because we saw the Bulls beat the Lakers, and Magic was like, he's an amazing player. Yeah. They had, like right after. So no, that's not how it was done back then. You're lying.
And even worse, they had video of MJ shaking the Pistons' hands every time they beat him. So it's like, yes, Isiah Thomas 100% in the wrong. Like, I understand all the physicality and stuff like that, but the sportsmanship is still a part of the game. I don't care what area you're in. And Michael Jordan, of all people, most competitive person, that we know in the game, he even would still shake his competitor's hand after getting whooped. So
I have to ask you a question. Do you think Isiah is telling the truth when he says it was Bill Laimbeer's idea to not shake hands and just walk off?
I'm going to give him a pass because he's stuck to that story for as long as I've heard the story of the walk-off. He's always said Bill Laimbeer said it. Even in this, you saw, I mean, maybe it was just convenient, but you saw Bill Laimbeer like look over and say something and they start to walk off. But I'll believe it just because he's been consistent.
Okay.
You've been consistent with it.
Consistency is the key.
But real quick, I want to go to these tweets before we end it off. We have Tay me away, whatever it is. They said Dennis Rodman is who Draymond thinks he is. That's facts.
That is facts. But I still think Draymond is an amazing defender. It is a different time. Like, I feel like if you could get away with some of the antics that Dennis Rodman could get away with, I feel like Draymond would try it.
And I agree with this. Smarf, he said, sending Michael Jordan to go retrieve someone else from Las Vegas is the craziest idea I've ever effing heard. And I think we all know the reason why he said that, because Michael Jordan,
gambling
Vegas.
problems. That could have ended so badly.
That could have went. You'd be like, I'll get Dennis after a few seconds down at the slot, so I'll be back.
Dennis, I can't find Dennis. I'm still looking. Yeah, that could have been so bad.
Michael, it's taking you 48 hours to find Dennis. He's like, I'm still looking.
I can't find him.
I'm still looking.
All right, well, I think that's it. I think that we got through this pretty well. This is such a fantastic documentary. It's so well produced, as it should be. It took forever to make, but well done. But let us know what you guys think. What were some of your favorite moments in these 2 episodes? What are you looking forward to on the next 2 episodes? Let us know in the comments below. Once again, I'm Jackie Ray, and
CK2K. It's your boy Chris. Find me everywhere at CK2K. CK2K.
All right, and find me everywhere at JRay the Fanatic. We'll see you guys next week for After the Dance.
After the Last Dance.